Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. With me, as always, is my co host, Garrett Ballard. Garrett, welcome to the Julio Jones Show.
It really is this week. That was the news of the week in the NFL. Pretty insane if you think about it. I am cameraless today if you're watching either live or the replay, but the Buccaneers signed Julio Jones a 1-year contract, 6 million I think with incentives that can get him to 8 million if I'm correct. Um, Big news.
Yeah, I saw the breakdown of how he can get there, and it's all production based. 40 receptions gets him 200,000, 50, 60, 70, and then same with yards, like 500, 600, 700.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. Do you think he hits any of those numbers? Where do you kind of peg Julio Jones? Where is his fit, if you will? As I know you just wrote an article about where
I
Julio Jones
did.
fits.
Yes. So, I mean, I think people are getting too hung up on the fact that uh, I can't say too hung up on the fact because it is Julio Jones, but they're expecting him to be something that I think he no longer is, uh, and that is a top five wide receiver in the NFL. Like people have become accustomed to seeing him just dominate. Like not even 3 years ago, he was still in the top of his game. I know the injuries were starting to catch up, but um, now 2 years from any real production. People are starting to say he's washed, he's not good, when in reality, I think he just needs to be in a situation where he can kind of not have to be Superman, not have to carry an offense with him. Like in Atlanta, for a long time, it was him as the one, and he was putting up 1,500 yards a season minimum. And I know they had guys like Mohamed Sanu, Roddy White, Calvin Ridley towards the end, but um, it was Julio Jones all the time. And now, even last year, the Titans, I think people expected him to kind of be co wide receiver one with AJ Brown. And he's just not at that point in his career anymore. I think he's going to be coming in, splitting wide receiver 3 reps with Russell Gage. So they're going to be on and off the field for each other, just depending on the offensive look. Uh, and I think that's perfect for what he needs. I don't think he needs to try and carry an offense. He just kind of needs to do what he can. Like, I don't think we need superb production out of him, but I mean, whatever we can get out of him is positive. I don't think he'll suck by any means, but he's not going to be a superstar.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Julio has lost a step.
Mm,
But let's keep in perspective, we are only 4 years removed from him leading the NFL in receiving yards.
yep,
2018. 2019, he had 1,400 receiving yards.
yep.
And then over the last 2 years, he's missed a total of 14 games. So he's been injured. And, that is going to happen as you get into your mid 30s. Your body hurts more just naturally. But he still is not that far removed from dominating.
I mean, it's Julio Jones. Like, you can never be like, oh yeah, he's gonna suck, because you don't know. I mean, it's Julio Jones. Like this guy was putting up 200 yards seemed like every game he played against the Bucs, right? Like this is one of the best wide receivers of uh, the decade. The guy is just a stud, and the injuries have limited him recently. But I mean, um, hopefully he can kind of touch into some of that magic with the Bucs and get back on track.
Yeah, it's funny. I think in the last few years, the Bucks have had the best two wide receivers over the course of the last decade in Julio Jones now and Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
Those were the best two receivers in the NFL for 7, 8 years.
yep.
And
I,
obviously, not the same player he was then. We've established that he's not going to be the one. He's not going to be the two. I don't even think he'll be the three. But what he'll be is effective whenever he's on the field.
yeah, I agree. I mean, even if it's just taking guys away from Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, or maybe Mike Evans and Chris Godwin take a guy away from Julio Jones. Like these are, I mean, he's a capable receiver who's one of the most experienced in the league, who's going to not only bring depth to this room, but also an extra level of production. I do think this kind of goes against the Bucs' typical uh, I don't want to say recipe, their typical um, prototype at wide receiver. He's more so just an outside guy. Um, but I think you could slide him in the slot every now and then if you need to. But I think primarily he'll be an outside guy for us.
This feels like such a Tom Brady influence kind of signing.
Mm,
A guy who's going into his 12th year in the league. He's played at the highest level. You know what you're getting with Julio Jones.
yeah.
You're getting crisp route running, even losing a step. He's still incredibly fluid, incredibly great feet, and he's dependable. He's going to be in the right place at the right time. How many times last year with our depth wide receivers did Tom Brady throw a pass and the wide receiver wasn't looking?
Yep.
Or it hit him in the hands, or he's just off a step. You don't have that with Julio Jones. This guy is going to come in and be Mr. Dependable. I mean, what he's lost in athleticism, he's gained in experience and craftiness.
Yeah.
So this is a security blanket to me. He's not going to be eye-popping numbers. I don't think he'll have more than 500 yards or so. I think that's a pretty generous estimate.
Mm.
But he'll probably get a lot of first downs. He will come in and he'll know where the sticks are. He'll know where to put himself in the zone defense, present himself, get open. He's going to be that guy who makes those little plays that don't show up in the box score, but are all the difference in winning and losing.
I mean, red zone packages with Mike Evans and Julio Jones are just going to be lethal. That's going to be insane to watch. I mean, I was reading up on like the transcripts from the interviews, and Todd Bowles was asked a question similar to what you just talked about, like, um, how quick does he think it's going to take to get Julio on the same page as everyone else? And he's like, look, Julio's a pro. He knows what it needs to do, what he needs to do, and what it takes to get on the same page as a quarterback and um, adapt to a system. Obviously, he's been in only one for the majority of his career, in with Matt Ryan, but he's changed coaches. It's not like he's just been on a powerhouse team forever. Um, Julio knows what he's got to do. He came from Alabama. Like, this is a high level football pedigree through and through. Talent, smart squad, just everything about him is just going to be easy. And I think it's like only a matter of time before we hear Tom Brady saying, yeah, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you bring up when you talk about the coaching changes he's gone through.
Mm.
I remember it felt like every other year was a down year for Matt Ryan because there were coaching changes. There was turnover. They were successful, so you're going to lose some of that brain trust.
Right.
So every year, Matt Ryan would have to adjust. He'd have an up year, he'd have a down year, he'd have an up year, he'd have a down year. It was all up for Julio Jones. He never had a down year. I mean, outside of injury-riddled years, he had a year where he played 5 games. But other than that, it was 1,500 yards, 1,400 yards, 1,800 yards, just consistent domination.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was just looking at his stats yesterday when was it yesterday? Yeah, it was when the signing was announced. I was like, what are his career stats against the Bucs? And it's like the yardage would have been second in the NFL. So it was over a 16-game period. That's his time against the games played against the Bucs. The yardage would have been second in the NFL this year, 11 touchdowns, just like insane numbers. And now he's joining the team. It's kind of crazy to think about after watching him just demolish us year after year after year. Definitely nice to have him on our side.
What was that one Mike Smith game where he said, we
Oh,
tried like 13
gosh.
different coverages, and he put up like 350 yards alone in that game, it felt like.
Yeah, I felt like he was just finding what was his name? Oh
Vernon
my gosh.
Hargraves,
No, Vernon was definitely one of them. Who was the other one?
Brent
Oh,
Grimes.
no, Ryan Smith? Is it?
Maybe. He was mostly
No.
special teams.
I can't. There was another corner who was like Vernon Hargraves and this other guy, and he was just following them and was just catching everything that was thrown at him. It was infuriating.
Yeah, it was rough. I watched that game and
Yep,
oof.
it's bad. That's for sure.
Let me ask you, as we begin to transition to our next topic, talking about the damage Julio Jones has done to the Bucs. What is this going to do in terms of the rest of the wide receiver core? I mean, someone is losing a job over this.
Yeah, I just think it takes away a slot. We were talking kind of about it last week, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more this week. But I'm looking at guys like Tyler Johnson and our rookie UDFA that we signed, Devin Tompkins, and then I'm going to look at probably Cyril Grayson, if I had to guess. Those three, I feel like, are at a much higher risk of not making the team now.
Yeah, it was already going to be really competitive at the bottom between
Yeah.
Scotty Miller, Brashard Perryman, Cyril Grayson, the undrafted guys you mentioned. And then voila, there's one less spot you can earn. And Jalen Darden, he's a name I totally forgot about.
Jalen Darden's going to be fine, I think, because of the special teams ability.
I tend to agree with you, but I mean, you've got your four set, you've got your special teams guy. That means maybe two more spots.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of familiar names there that
Yep.
we could be saying goodbye to a few of them.
Yep.
So, with that kind of out there, let's transition to our next topic. Training camp is here. We know most of who's going to be on this roster, but there's competition. So, we want to go on the record here and now. Who is your roster? Who is your 53? We want to try and give our best guess at who we predict is going to make this team in the end.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to remember. So, start with quarterback, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So, obviously, Tom Brady is going to be one. Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask are the other two. And then I think they're going to roll in with they had Ryan Griffin last year. Was he on the practice squad?
I believe he was.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and do that again. So 3 quarterbacks on the 53 to start. What about you?
Yep, I totally agree. Blaine Gabbert is the primary backup. Obviously, they're not going to cut Kyle Trask. He was a second-round pick last year. You just invested too much in him to give up on him that quickly.
Yep.
I think even if they wanted to go 2 quarterbacks and free up a roster spot, they're just not in a position to.
Yep, I would agree. You want to start with running backs?
Yeah. So running backs, obviously, 245-pound Leonard Fournette. Came in trim, feeling good about that. Rashad White, the rookie out of Arizona State. Gio Bernard, kind of that depth veteran pass catcher. And that's where I'm cutting it. Keyshawn Vaughn, not on my roster.
I think they roll with 4, and Vaughn's in there.
I think it's a possibility because he was a high third-round pick. But in the pecking order, he's the 4th string running back, and he brings no special teams value. It's hard to justify a guy like that.
No, it definitely is. I just they also have Kenyon Barner on there, and I think they're just going to cut one running back. And I don't think it'll be Vaughn.
I could see them keeping Kenyon Barner and cutting Keyshawn Vaughn and Jalen Darden because Barner's a good special teams player.
I think they're going to opt for youth.
I agree, but I think he kind of fills 2 roster spots where they're looking to find
You're
space
definitely right.
for guys.
That's an option. That's definitely an option that they could go with. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, though.
Okay, so a little bit of variation there. I've got 3 running backs. You've got 4. Where does that leave you at receiver? The topic of the day.
Yeah, there are so many. Hold on. Okay. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, And then I got Scotty Miller, Brashad Perriman.
Scott Perriman. I know it's getting tough. Who are you keeping?
And
That's
Jalen
6.
Darden. Jalen
Jalen
Darden.
Darden. So you're keeping just 7, not 8.
Yeah, I'm keeping 7.
All right. I'm keeping the exact same 7. I'm
Okay.
cutting Tyler Johnson is so out of the running for me. I think he's just a camp body at this point.
I want them to be like, maybe they can get a 7th for him, you know?
Yeah, I know Tyler Johnson had a lot of fans coming out of the draft. He was big on draft Twitter, so I know there will be some interest.
Mm-hmm.
He's just shown nothing in the league.
Yeah, he's not been good.
Cyril Grayson is a name I am sorry to see not make this team in this scenario.
I'd like to see them try and bring him back on the practice squad.
And I think they will, because that's where he spent a majority of his time with the Bucs, and he's come through when called upon.
Yep.
He just hasn't proven enough. He's only played 2 meaningful games, really. And you can't cut a guy like Scotty Miller or even Brashad Perriman, who I think is his biggest competition right now, in favor of that.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, tight ends.
Okay. So we got Cam Brate,
Yep.
Kyle Rudolph, K. Dotton, and I'm keeping Kokieft. I've got 4 tight ends.
Yeah, I have the same 4.
All right. So where does that bring us now in terms of total? I've got 6, 4 tight ends. So I've got 17. You've got 18 total roster spots taken.
Yep. I should start keeping track of this.
So that's going to bring us to offensive line. We know the starting 5. Well, 4 of the 5.
Yeah.
Donovan
so it's
Smith, Ryan Jensen, Shaq Mason, Tristan Wirfs.
Yep.
Where are you going from there?
Okay, so there are those 5. That brings us to 23.
Oh, who's your 5th? Who's your starter there at left guard?
Oh, my starter will be Gadecki, but I'm also keeping Stinney. So.
Okay, so that's 6 offensive linemen right there.
Yep, and then I'm going to keep Fred Johnson.
Okay, right tackle.
Yep.
/ guard.
Yep, Robert Hainsey.
Center. That's 8.
And Josh Wells.
So that's 9 offensive linemen.
Yep.
So that brings you to 27 offensive players total.
Yep.
I'm keeping the same 9. I like the versatility that the tackle guard combo brings you with I've already forgot his name. The new guy we signed.
Fred Johnson,
thank you. Yeah, I like that versatility. I think Wells is the better tackle. I think he's your number 1 tackle. Obviously, you want to keep Hainsey. Obviously, you want to keep Stinney. I think that's a really natural 9 to keep.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Defense. You've got 27 roster spots taken. I've got 26.
Do we want to start with edge or with interior?
Let's start with interior and work our way back.
Okay. So, obviously, we got Vita Vea, Logan Hall, William Golston, Akeem Hicks.
Yep.
Those are the 4. And then I'm keeping 31, 32, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, and Pat O'Connor.
So you're keeping 6 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the exact same 6.
Okay.
I really like Pat O'Connor as a guy who can play with his hand in the dirt, or he can kick out to edge from time to time.
Yep.
So he gives you a little bit of depth at 2 positions, which I like.
Great special teams guy, too.
Yep. He's got value on this roster for sure.
Yep. All right. Edge rusher, go for it.
I think I'm only keeping 4 at this point. I'm keeping Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon-Chewinka, Nelson, and Cam Gill. I don't think there's anyone else worthy of a roster spot.
Those were the 4 I was going to keep. I'd like to see them try and add one, like a veteran.
Yeah, I'd love a guy like Anthony Barr who can do a little inside-outside linebacker.
D Ford's intriguing to me.
Yep, he's a name who just became a free agent today. Just got cut by the 49ers, I believe.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think I would love a 5th edge because you always want more pass rushers. But there's just no one on this roster who I think is worthy of that spot right now.
So what are you at? Because I'm 1 less than you.
I was at 26, then I added 6, and then I added 4. So I'm at 36.
So I'm at 35.
Oh,
Okay.
you're at 37.
Oh, yeah.
I'm counting up. You're counting down.
Yeah. 37. Okay. Linebackers. I start with linebackers. So, let me find them on here. So, obviously, Levante and Devin White.
Mhm.
And then Grant Stewart, KJ Britt. I'll keep it there for now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Those are my 4.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a position of there's no 5th guy who I'd really love to see on this roster.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a 5th inside linebacker. They'd make a good special teams value.
Right.
And frankly, I'd like someone above Britt and Grant Stewart, who are a primary special teams player. I'd love that primary backup. He's just not on the roster.
I think Britt will fill into that role a bit more.
I think you're right.
I don't think Stewart will ever. I think he's a special teamer through and through.
Britt is such the same mold as Minter, who was our primary backup before.
Yeah.
They're really the same style of player. Big,
they are.
Physical, in the tackle box. Not a lot of range there. I'd love a guy who's a little more.
I would too. I
But
definitely would.
He's just not here. We don't have him.
Yeah. Hey, we're finding him somewhere else. Okay, corners.
All right. So obviously we're keeping Carlton Davis.
Yep.
Jamel Dean. Sean Murphy-Bunting. Zion McCullum. D. Delaney. And I'm keeping Ross Cockrell. I'm going 6 corners.
I will keep the same 6.
I think you're running out of roster spots.
I definitely am. Give me. Never mind. I'll keep 5 minus your guys minus D. Delaney.
Yeah, I think Delaney and Cockrell is going to be a battle if they go this way, your pathway. And I think Ross Cockrell just gives more versatility. Can play nickel, can play safety, can be a backup at 2 positions.
Oh my gosh, wait. We have to do kicker and punter. Oh no.
And long snapper. So there are 3 positions.
Okay, so I have 4 slots to get safeties.
And I think that works really naturally because to me, there are 4 guys who you keep there.
Yeah, let me just find them. I just want to get the names. So Edwards, Neal, Ryan, Winfield. Cut it.
Yep. I think that's a really obvious group of safeties, especially Ross Cockrell providing a little corner safety versatility on the depth chart.
Yep.
And, it's not talked about often, but he is a special teams guy. He's a guy who contributes there. He's got value. He makes himself that much more valuable.
And then punter, Camarda. Kicker, we might differ. I think they stick with Suckup. Do you think they might? We'll have to see for what's his name, Borregales.
Mm-hmm.
I think today was Suckup's for day kicking. I think tomorrow will be Borregales. So we'll see how he does. And then long snapper, he's been here forever. Trainer, right?
Yep, Zach Trainer.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'll probably keep the same 3. I think Borregales has legitimate competition to win this job, but I really don't know anything about him to say with confidence that I think he will win it.
Yeah, we'll just have to. It's like a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's definitely Suckup's jobs to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he won you Super Bowl. He's been there, done that. I think I saw a Greg Allman tweet today that said he went 7 for 7 in his kicks, so he's off to a good start. But we'll see.
We will see indeed.
All right, so we only had one difference. I kept D. Delaney, and you kept Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yep.
Other than that, this roster really is pretty well established.
Yeah, I don't feel super confident about that either. I just kind of set it to be a bit different than you. Because if I didn't, we'd be the same completely throughout.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a pretty predictable roster aside from those 2 Maybe they add a fifth linebacker, or a fifth edge rusher. But it feels pretty set.
Yeah, I would love to see them add an Anthony Barr. I don't know how much money they have after the Julio Jones signing. I think
That
he
would
did
be
got some
perfect.
voidable years, but he gives them that inside outside versatility that this team really needs.
That would be perfect.
In which case, I probably think we'd cut the guy that each of us kept. I'd probably cut D Delaney. You'd
Yes,
probably cut
yes,
Keyshawn Vaughn.
yes, that's correct.
So now, I did not expect us to be so the same on these. It makes me feel like we should probably coordinate a little bit more before show. You know, we do all our shows on the fly. We
Yep.
do really no prep for them at all. For those of
Nah,
you watching, it's just talking football.
off the cuff. But I mean, the other thing is like if we had a team that was, say, the Jets, or like a team that's picking early in the draft, they might have a bit more to talk about at certain positions than, say, the Bucs, because most of the Bucs team is pretty similar to last year. I think there's a couple positions that had turnover, and if there was turnover, say like the guard position, we lost two. They bring in Shaq Mason, who's experienced at the position and is really, really good at it. That's locked up. So it's not the hardest thing to do to predict 53-man rosters for these teams. Um, it'll just be the couple little places that we're not super sure of.
Yeah, and then a couple of notable names who we cut from our exercise here. Diedrich Sanat, who the Bucks
Yep.
signed. Uh, I don't know how to say his name. Potoya
Benning,
Benning.
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I read the name, so I'm familiar with it, but I never have really heard it
I think
pronounced.
he was a practice squad guy last year, so they might try and bring him back on that.
Most likely. We talked about Cyril Grayson and Tyler Johnson. Grayson probably being a practice squad guy, Johnson being essentially a dead body to me.
Yep.
He is nothing.
Yep.
But he might come on the practice squad. He's been here with the team for a few years. I just don't think he brings anything.
Yeah. No.
But
Anyone else?
I think there's a lot of young names. Andre Anthony, who was a draft pick of this team,
Seventh
he'll
round
probably
pick.
be
Yeah,
a practice squad guy.
probably.
But really, I mean, there is no egregious name.
Yeah. No.
I mean, is anyone that upset about Diedrich's not making the team? I wouldn't think
I don't
so.
think so. That'd
Is
be kind
anyone
of crazy.
expecting
Maybe
it to?
Deidre Sanat might have something to say about it, but
You're probably right. But you know what? We had some Falcons representation on earlier in the offseason and did not speak highly of Diedrich.
yeah, yeah, there's definitely some bit of Sanat slander, one might say. But wish the best for Deidre, but we don't know how it's going to go for you just because our D line is kind of stacked.
Yeah, I mean, you got your three established starters. You spent a high second round pick on another defensive lineman, and then a couple of core depth guys who have been with you through a Super Bowl run. I mean, it's
Yep.
just that is the beauty about having a good team. There are not a lot of depth issues. There's not a lot of unknowns.
Yep.
I mean, really, the biggest unknowns we have right now is who is the starting left guard and what's Julio Jones' number going to be.
That's correct. Probably two.
Kyle Trask has two.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Who has 11?
Blaine Gabbert, both are backup quarterbacks.
Bro.
He'll
Bro,
probably get something obscure
Trask
like
can take,
80.
yeah, something ugly. I don't know. Give Julio two.
Give him 11. I
Yeah,
don't
give
care
him
what Blaine
11.
Gabbert wears.
He might, though. He might come in and be like, I want to keep 11 for the Falcons, which I would respect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Julio Jones is an iconic player. You see
Yeah.
11. I mean, I don't know about you, but he's the first guy I think of.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I mean, that and Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
So, not a lot of mystery.
There's really not. It was a pretty, not the most interactive episode on our behalf, but we'll have a lot more for you next week when training camp starts really ramping up. I will be there. Follow me on Twitter at NFL Ballard to keep up with training camp. I'll be tweeting some throughout, writing stuff after on Bucks Report and at Sports Talk Florida. I know JT will also be covering some of the storylines um, once he hears about them uh, at Bucs Report as well. So make sure y'all check us out. Unfortunately, the Bucs Report Twitter was hacked. Um, so go find us on Facebook. Search us up on Google. We would really appreciate it. Just that little bit of extra effort.
Yeah, and not to sound self-serving, but follow us. We'll be tweeting out
Yep,
all of our articles, that Garrett's putting out. I'll be tweeting, he'll be tweeting out the articles I write, and the rest of our very talented staff. So, if you want breaking Bucks news, give us a follow, especially Garrett. I'm really excited to see what you're bringing live from camp. Are you going to be able to record it all?
I would assume so. I know people post videos pretty frequently there. This will be my first time credentialed there, so I will have to just kind of get a lay of the land. I don't want to make anyone mad by doing something I'm not supposed to. So the first day will be a bit of a trial run. I'm going to record. I just don't know how much I'm going to do just because I'm going to be a bit wary of everything. But there will be videos, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know about anyone else, but that's always what I'm looking for when I'm scrolling these Bucks
For
training
sure.
camp days. You can read all you want, but seeing there, seeing how a guy wins in a route, seeing a rep being won, that says so much more to me than reading it, because it's always up for interpretation. This guy had a great day.
Yep.
Show me he had a great day.
Yep.
So I'm a fairly mediocre follow, but definitely follow Garrett. Garrett, remind the people, what is your Twitter handle?
NFL Ballard. NFL Ballard.
Follow him. Get
Follow both
the
of us.
insight. I mean, yeah, you can follow me if you want, but Garrett's bringing you the good stuff.
I'm the credentialed one. So thank you all for listening once again. Uh, sorry for the short episode, but um, one more week until things really start ramping up. I know training camp started today, but it's the first day. There's not a ton to talk about. So we'll be back next week, same time as always. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.